The campaign season is here, and your vote can make a difference. Comcast brings you the candidates on demand right now.
I'm Jill Horner. This is Candidates on Demand. With me is Jake Towne. He is an independent candidate for the 15th Congressional District. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me.
First of all, define for us the area that you're hoping to represent.
Sure. The 15th Congressional District is about an hour and a half north of Philadelphia. It covers Allentown, Bethlehem Easton, and the surrounding areas.
Okay, so that's the area. But talk to us a little bit about your background and why you decided to run for Congress.
Sure. My background is I'm running as an independent private citizen under no political party, and my background is as a chemical engineer. I grew up in the area and spent my whole life there except for the last 4 years, which I was working abroad over in Shanghai, China.
Now you've come back in order to run for Congress. Why make that decision to leave China and come and run for an elected position?
Absolutely, and the reason is while I was over there I saw what was going on, especially with the TARP banker bailout back in 2008. I just got to be very upset with the way our whole country's heading. And what I believe is that we have a two-headed one-party system that's completely failed the American people. You have the Republicans on the right that say, oh, we're the small government party, and they end up doubling the size of the federal government. And then you have the Democrats on the left that say, oh, we're the party of peace and we'll defend your civil liberties. But when you get right down to it, they expanded the war in Afghanistan, and the Patriot Act, which they complained about for 8 years under Bush, they've reauthorized back in February.
So those are some of the things that you're hoping to address. But if elected, what would be some of your top priorities?
Well, the top priorities that I have is addressing the endless debt that is plaguing our nation, and also the endless wars, and stopping those wars is linked to the debt. But what Americans need to realize is operating the government should be just the same as operating your own personal budget or a small business. You can't be spending more than what you bring in, so something like a balanced budget amendment is sorely needed today in Congress.
Now, you have something that you would call open office. What do you mean by that?
My open office idea is a way to empower individuals in the district, and the way it'll work is quite simple. For any House floor bill, they'll be able to comment in. I'll read through these comments and for and against, and after I vote, I'll tell them not just how I voted, but also why I voted. And that way, I'll be accountable, and I'll be held accountable to the people, and it'll also be transparent. People always know why I'm voting on things, which is something that's completely missing with the Republicans and Democrats.
Now, you actually lived in China for several years. How could that international experience play into your role as a potential member of Congress?
Well, it expands your perspectives when you live abroad in a foreign country. And the way I tell people, it's kind of like, especially in a communist country like China, and when you live abroad, it's sort of like your health. Like when you don't have your health, you really, really miss it. It's the most important thing in the world. But when you do have it, you take it for granted. And living in a communist country like China, where they don't have the freedom of press, they don't have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, really, makes you value all those things that has made America great and that we're losing today.
Do you think that that experience of living and working in China, a communist country, could potentially help you as a member of Congress in order to deal with things like foreign relations, foreign affairs, that Congress is tasked with doing?
Well, absolutely, and one of the biggest problems that we have is in the United States, the government is really acting as if it were economic central planners, and that's what we need to realize, and our country just does not work. It didn't work in China, it didn't work in the USSR, and it's not going to work in the United States as well.
So we've talked a little bit about your background and your priorities, but why would you encourage people to actually vote for you in this race?
Sure. Well, one of the reasons, one of the many reasons I should say is, and what I tell people is if you want more war, more spending, more debt, fewer jobs, and less prosperity, then go ahead and vote for the other Republican candidates in my race. But if you want all the opposites, less federal spending, less debt, less war, more jobs and more prosperity, then vote for me. And I'm very serious about cutting the size of federal government. I think that if we do that, the American people will be able to figure things out. I think that one of the things that I'll be doing is the congressional salary for senators and congressmen is $174,000. What I'll be doing is taking the median household income for my district, which is in the mid-50s. I'll be donating the rest of it, $116,000, to local nonprofit hospitals in my district, as well as not enrolling in the congressional health care plan or the congressional pension plan.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've been talking with Jake Towne, an independent candidate for the 15th Congressional District. I'm Jill Horner.